Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this matchbook pop-up card. It opens like a matchbook and then inside pops up. You can see it's on a little popper at the bottom and then it closes, and it's 5.5 tall, and at its widest it's 4.25, so it fits nicely into a standard envelope. Let me pop this off to one side and bring in the ingredients, and I will show you how to make it. As always, of course, all the directions and dimensions will be on my blog, so you don't have to frantically jot them down or anything. They'll all be listed out nicely for you. So the main body of it is balmy blue, and this piece is 3 3/4 wide by 9 3/4 long tall, and it's scored at 5 1/4. So that makes, let me just bring in my bone folder. And then the basic white piece is 3 5/8 by 9 1/2, and it's scored at 5 inches. But then what we'll do is the piece we will put where this will be the front of the inside. This piece is going to get embossed, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the embossing folder that goes with the stamp set. It's Sunrise Sailing Hybrid Embossing Folder. You can actually put the cutting dies inside here, and it will cut the boat out while you are embossing, but of course we don't want that to happen. So what I did was, oops, it's on the taller side. Let me open the card so you can see. On the taller side, I embossed the ship, the sailing ship. So what I did was I lined the fold line up with the boat inside, and then I just closed that down and I ran it through the embossing machine, and then, you know, ta-da, by power of the here's one I made earlier, this is how it works. So you can see the bottom of the boat is on the crease line. We've got the clouds in the sky and the water in the underneath. So that's how it will fit inside the card. And what we need to do is just snip a little bit on this fold. So let me bring in my scissors. So I'm only going to cut about, you know what I'm going to do it where you can see where the boat is. I'm going to do it about 1/2 inch and probably about 3/4 of an inch wide, and then we can fold that up and then fold it back on itself. So when you open the inside up, it pops out. So you get this little notch that's missing, because this is the little piece on the inside that the boat attaches to. So that's the pop-up mechanism in place. But let me, actually, I can leave that open. Let me bring in a piece of basic white, and then I'm going to use the sailboat and I'm going to stamp it in the Misty Moonlight. So we will just go ahead and ink that up. And then stamp that onto the basic white, just like that. And then I'm going to close that because we don't need it for the moment. I'm then going to bring in the balmy blue ink, and I'd made a card like this a little while ago, and when I put the added elements on, the balmy blue itself seemed quite intense. When I tried to do it with the Misty Moonlight, it almost looked like a denim color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the balmy blue, but just stamp it off. So we'll ink up the sail pieces and stamp it off, and it just fills in the sails a little bit to give them a look. And then I'm going to do the same with the body of the boat. Just pop those into place, and there you have it. So you can see there is just sort of a lighter refrain and it just sort of subtly fills it in. So we'll close that for now. And then what we need to do is take a piece of the beautiful bouquet designer series paper, and this was cut to 4 3/4 by 4 3/8 by 5 3/8. So I cut the piece out, and then what I did was I stamped the sailboat the same. So I then brought in the die and I ran it through the die cutting machine to get a here's one I made earlier for you. So that's the sailboat that we've just stamped. But then what I did was, on the bouquet, I stamped the sailboat exactly the same. Oh, come on. Gosh, it's stuck down. So stamp the sailboat on a piece of bouquet blue, on the piece that was cut out, exactly the same. But then I lined it up in the embossing folder and I embossed the whole thing. So let me bring back in the embossing folder and I'll show you how that was positioned. Once it was stamped just straightforward onto the bouquet, I then put the bouquet into the embossing folder and closed it down, and then when I ran it through the embossing machine, it came out 3D'd with the water, and we knew exactly where to put it because the shape of the sailboat is in the embossing folder. So that got us all the elements that we needed to make everything the same. And then I just had a little piece, the top is a little piece of Misty Moonlight, and it's 2.5 by 4 1/4, and then it's scored at 1 1/4, and then I just took an inch strip, so this is 1 inch by 4, and I ran it through the bottom of the embossing folder so it gets sort of the water effect on it. So let's set to, we've got all the pieces it seems, let's set to and get them going. The last thing we needed was a greeting, so I will, you know what, I'll just stamp that. So using the Misty Moonlight, and this comes from my favorite Simply Said, I've got the happy birthday, and then inside it says let's celebrate. So we'll stamp happy birthday onto this little piece of 1/2 inch basic white. And then we'll use our lovely little chevron technique. So I'm just going to snip it off so there's equal distance, just eyeballing it. And then I'm going to cut up the middle, and from each point to that middle. And again, we'll cut up the middle and from each point to that. So it just chevrons those edges nicely. And it gives us a nice birthday greeting. So now we can go ahead and put all these wonderful, why does this keep sticking down? All these wonderful ingredients. So first thing we need to do is attach the inside. And because this is embossed, the best way to do it is to use the liquid glue. Because if you use your rolling adhesive and you press on it, there's a good chance you could actually smooth out and straighten the embossing. So the tall edge goes on the top. Whoops. So it's in place and buttered all the way down to the fold. And then we'll go ahead and we'll put glue on this bit and then just press it closed. So now when you open the card, we've got the embossed ship with the sky, and we've got the water and this little clear area. And while I've got this just sitting in front of me, I will get the let's celebrate. No, that's happy birthday. We'll do the let's celebrate again with the Misty Moonlight, and I'm just going to stamp this. And the nice thing is, because of the distance of the length of the basic white and actually the embossing folder, there's a little bit of clear at the top, which doesn't matter because it just looks like it's going to carry on and be sky, but the water only reaches halfway down the bottom, which leaves this little section flat and clear for putting a greeting and writing. Love from me to you. So that's the base of the card. So that can just close nicely. What we need to do now is we need to put the designer series paper on the front. And again, because this is embossed, the best way to do that is to do it with the liquid glue, because then it just gets into all those little nooks and crannies. So we'll pop that on the front. And then what we need to do is just put a little bit of glue just on the front surface, not on the top, because that will close and it would stick your card together. Only on this front little section. And then the sailboat will just fit onto there. So we just need to hold that in place till it is secure. And then what I did on mine was I just added one little extra seagull. So while that glue is drying on the sailboat, we'll just quickly pop him into place and we'll put it up in the sky. And then we can leave that to dry momentarily. So this piece, as I said, was 4 1/4 by 2 1/2, and it was scored at 1 1/4. So I had embossed some more of the balmy blue to look like water, and because it's embossed, we'll follow our own rules and put this on the front. So it's all nice and watery looking. And then what we need to do is stick this on the inside. And because this is just flat onto flat, what I'm going to do is put, not all the way, but just glue on this piece. So we're leaving about 1/2 inch at each side, so we know we haven't exceeded the width of the topper. Normally the advice is that you put the glue on the smaller part, but I wasn't sure how far down that would come, so it was better to just gauge 1/2 inch on the inside and leave those pieces free and clear. Now this is going to be the matchbook part, so we've only got this short distance to hold it together. So you can use glue, but what I'm going to use is tear and tape. So I'm going to torture myself and find the tear and tape. And when I came to put it on for mine, I discovered it was really just a hair's breadth too long. So I'm just going to cut a little piece off so it will fill the whole area but not hang out, and also not get too close to here, because then the body of the card won't fit in. So again, I know I've got to cut just a slither off. I mean, it's less than half. So we'll put that right up against the edge and fill that area. I'm just going to take that off my scissors, because somewhere along the line I'm going to need those quickly, and then I'll be sticking sticky to myself, so it's almost like a tidy up as you go along. So now we just need to peel the backing paper off the sticky tape, the tear and tape, and close that down into place. So it holds this closed, but it leaves this flap open for the card to go into. And then last but not least, we can pop some dimensionals on the greeting that we just stamped earlier. Just going to use 3 of the mini ones. Throw the backing papers across my room because it wouldn't be an Alyson video without that happening, and pop those on there. So this can now just curve gently and tuck in. There we go. So it's now got the embossed front, it's got the lovely little banner, the watery look on the blue, and then when you open it, this pops up 3D, and it's got the greeting on the flat area, which follows through the greeting that you put on the front. Get in, please. So there you have it, 2 the same. I'll leave that one open so you can see what's on the inside. Now you'll notice this doesn't open all the way, but when people get cards, they do not try and open it all the way. The most important part is that it fits flat to go in the envelope, and hopefully someone will just display it that much open and not try and lay it flat. So there you have it, my lovely friends. We've got the Matchbook pop-up card. If you like what you've seen, please consider subscribing. I thank you in advance if you are kind enough to give me a thumbs up. All the directions and dimensions will be on my blog, as I said. If you have a question or a comment, pop those in the box below. And in the meantime, thanks for watching.